Welcome to the deep dive. If you're preparing to practice, maybe in engineering or geoscience here in Canada, you know that getting that professional license, well, it comes with enormous privilege.
It certainly does.
But that privilege,
Yeah,
it's really anchored in one huge, absolutely non-negotiable idea: personal accountability.
that's it.
So today, this deep dive, it's all about understanding that core duty.
Yeah, that's the mission today, really, to unpack what it actually means to be personally answerable, for your actions, your decisions, even things you don't do, your omissions.
Okay.
And we're looking at this fundamental truth that this responsibility, it just isn't transferable. You can delegate tasks, sure. You can follow orders from a boss.
Mhm.
But that professional seal, that means the buck stops completely with you, the licensed individual. It's absolutely central to the professional practice standards.
Okay, let's definitely unpack that. Let's dive right into the basics, maybe starting with why we even have self-regulation in the first place.
Sounds good.
But wait, hang on. Before we get too deep into the legal and ethical side of things, we really want to invite you to subscribe.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you are tackling the NPPE exam, or maybe you just want to really get a solid grip on the foundational knowledge you need for professional practice, make sure you follow this deep dive. You don't want to miss any of our insights.
Please do. Okay, so self-regulation, the whole system is built on something called the social contract.
Right, the social
The
contract.
professional self-regulation in Canada, it isn't just some administrative setup. It's actually a privilege. It's granted by the government, and it's all based on public trust.
Okay.
Professionals get the power, the authority to govern themselves. But in exchange, there's one critical promise they have to make: always act in the public interest.
So it's like we hand the profession the keys to its own house, but only if they promise to look out for the neighborhood first.
That's a great way to put it.
So what happens if that promise, that contract gets broken?
Well, that's where it gets fragile, you see. If the public loses faith, if they start thinking professionals are putting profits or loyalty ahead of safety and public welfare,
Then the government steps in.
inevitably, they'll impose stricter controls from the outside. And that's precisely why accountability, being personally answerable for your judgments, your decisions, why that's the mechanism that actually enforces this contract.
Ah, I see.
You have a duty to explain yourself, to justify your actions, to regulators, maybe to clients, or even the public if something, goes wrong.
And what's really interesting here, and maybe different from a lot of other jobs, that you can't just hide behind the company, right?
Yeah.
You're not shielded by, say, a big corporate structure or anonymity.
Absolutely not. That's a really crucial point that sets professional practice apart. Your professional seal, your signature, they carry personal legal weight.
Wow.
When you put that seal on something, you are personally, individually accepting responsibility for the ethical side and the technical side, the integrity of that specific piece of work.
Okay, so accountability isn't just one thing. It sort of exists on two levels, right?
Mm-hmm.
Connected but distinct.
Precisely. You've got the ethical dimension and the legal dimension.
Okay.
Ethical accountability, that's your moral responsibility. It's like your internal compass telling you to act with honesty, with integrity, fairness, even when nobody's looking over your shoulder.
Right. Doing the right thing.
Then there's legal accountability, and this one's non-negotiable. It's the obligation you have to comply with all the laws, the regulations, federal, provincial, and, of course, the professional codes that the associations enforce.
So ethical is like knowing I should fix that vague note in the design document because it's unclear. And legal is potentially getting disciplined or sued because that note actually violated some mandatory standard.
That's a perfect contrast. Yeah, and you have to uphold both.
Right.
Failing in either one, ethical or legal, that can constitute professional misconduct or negligence. And, the source materials really hammer this home. Even honest mistakes, things that happen because of an oversight.
Just a lapse in attention.
Exactly. Not malicious intent, just you missed something. You're still personally responsible for the consequences. You own the outcome, no matter how the mistake happened.
That really sets the stage for what a professional's true priority has to be, which I think brings us to maybe the single biggest takeaway in all the standards.
Which is?
Protecting public safety, health, and welfare. This responsibility, it trumps everything else. Loyalty to your boss, the client, your own interests. None of it matters more than public safety.
That is the absolute core principle. The professional's number one, foremost duty is always to the public.
And what does that look like in practice?
Well, in practice, it means you're actively identifying risks, mitigating risks to human life, to the environment. It means ensuring your work always complies with accepted technical standards, safety standards.
So if you see something something unsafe or unethical or maybe even illegal, you can't just stay quiet.
Staying silent. That's actually a failure of your professional duty. Your personal accountability demands, well, moral courage, really, to act when you see potential danger. And this leads directly into that conflict we often see in just day-to-day practice, doesn't it? Trying to manage that duty to the public versus, well, the duty you owe to the client who's paying the bills.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Because professionals definitely owe things like competence, confidentiality, good faith to their clients and employers. But how do you handle that tension? Say an employer demands you cut a corner to meet a tight budget, but you know that cut impacts safety.
That's the ultimate test of your professional independence, isn't it?
I guess so.
If an employer's direction, or maybe a client's, conflicts with established safety standards or legal requirements or the professional codes, the professional must refuse to comply.
Must refuse. Not should, but must.
Must. It's not optional. It's a mandatory duty.
Okay, it sounds straightforward on paper, must refuse unsafe orders. But practically speaking, how hard is that for, say, a younger engineer who's worried about their job or facing economic pressure? Is there support or guidance on managing that kind of conflict?
Well, the associations provide these strong ethical frameworks for exactly this reason, because it is difficult.
Okay.
But needing to refuse those unsafe orders, that actually reflects your independent judgment. That's a defining characteristic of being a self-regulated professional. The client or employer hired your specialized knowledge, your competence.
Not just your obedience.
Exactly. Not just your willingness to follow instructions blindly. And if that conflict just can't be resolved internally, well, the professional might even have a duty to report the matter to the regulator, the association, to make sure that hazard gets addressed. The standards demand you apply your knowledge responsibly, independent of those financial pressures.
Okay. That really leads us nicely into the practical side of accountability, which is due diligence.
Right.
Due diligence is often described as prudence, not perfection. Can you maybe expand on what that distinction means?
Sure. Perfection. That's impossible in the real world. But prudence, care that's mandatory. Due diligence is that proactive effort. It's the systematic care, the skill, the attention that, a reasonable professional, someone in the same field, would apply in similar circumstances.
So it's about showing you tried your best.
It's about showing you did everything reasonably expected to identify and mitigate risks before something bad happens. It's kind of like routine maintenance on your car, right? You check the brakes regularly, not because you expect them to fail today.
Right, hopefully not.
But because checking them is part of a sensible preventative system. That's due diligence.
Okay, so what are the key things, the practical actions professionals should be doing, maybe daily, to show they're exercising that level of diligence?
I'd say there are 4 really critical areas. First, continuous learning. You've got to stay informed about evolving laws, codes, new standards, technologies.
Okay, number 1.
Second, documentation. Keep accurate, detailed records. Decisions made, communications sent and received, calculations. Third, competence check. Only approve work. Only sign off on things that you are genuinely qualified and competent to assess. Don't stretch beyond your expertise.
Makes sense.
And fourth, follow-up. If you identify an issue, make sure it gets definitively resolved. Don't just flag it and assume someone else will handle it. See it through.
And that documentation piece sounds like it's maybe the ultimate shield, doesn't it? It's not just paperwork. It's like the recorded timeline of your professional judgment.
Absolutely. Couldn't have said it better. Comprehensive documentation is your proof. Proof of due diligence. It's your legal defense if there's ever an investigation or, worse, a lawsuit.
Right.
Your notes, your calculations, emails, reports, they all need to clearly show your reasoning. What alternatives did you consider? What steps did you take to ensure compliance and safety? It has to tell the story.
Okay, now let's tackle that classic pitfall, the delegation trap. So if I'm a senior engineer and I delegate, say, a complex structural modeling task to a very competent junior engineer on my team, and they happen to make a mistake, I can't just point the finger at them, right? Even if they signed off on their calculations.
That is the classic misunderstanding, and it gets professionals into serious trouble. Delegating a task does not transfer your accountability.
Okay, not at all.
Not at all. The professional who ultimately seals or approves that final work, that's usually the senior person, is fully responsible for its accuracy, its integrity. You own the result, even if you weren't the one doing the detailed modeling yourself.
So what does responsible supervision look like then? In that context, how do you delegate properly?
Right. It means the delegating professional, the one who's going to seal it, has to review all the critical elements of that delegated work. It means making sure the junior staff is actually competent and trained for that specific task, providing adequate oversight, guidance, answering questions, and then, critically, verifying that the final output meets all the required professional standards before you put your name and your seal on it.
So if you didn't supervise adequately,
Then your accountability has failed. The failure is on you, the supervisor, as much as, or perhaps even more than, the person who made the initial error.
got it. Okay, let's shift gears slightly towards integrity.
Mm.
This feels like the moral courage aspect of accountability.
Right.
Maybe less tangible than due diligence, but maybe even more critical.
I think you're right. Integrity requires absolute truthfulness, straightforward dealing. Professionals must never misrepresent their qualifications, for instance, or their experience, or, crucially, the capabilities or limitations of their designs or data.
No overselling.
No overselling. Any report you write must be clear, factual, and completely free from exaggeration or concealment. Hiding inconvenient data, that's a huge breach. Dishonesty doesn't just break the public's trust. It's a direct violation of professional standards.
But, we're all human. People make mistakes. When you do screw up, because it happens, what does the ethical playbook say you should do?
Acknowledge it promptly, correct it if possible, and report any associated risks upwards or to the client or whoever needs to know.
So no cover-ups.
Absolutely no cover-ups. Concealing an error, even if it seems like a minor technical glitch at first, can escalate quickly. It can turn into a really serious ethical breach, maybe even a legal violation. Responsible professionals, they see mistakes not as threats to hide, but actually as opportunities to learn, to tighten up systems, improve procedures.
And it really circles back to competence being a continuous duty, doesn't it?
Exactly. Accountability absolutely includes continuous professional development, CPD. The associations require it for a reason. Failing to stay current with evolving standards, new technologies, changes in legislation. That itself is a breach of your duty to the public.
So if a new building code comes out and you miss it and use an old, outdated standard on a project,
You are personally accountable for any consequences that arise from that failure to stay current. Ignorance isn't an excuse.
and I guess the flip side of competence, the necessary partner to it, is knowing your limits, recognizing the boundary of your own expertise.
That's an essential part of accountability, and maybe a sign of professional maturity, actually. Knowing when not to act,
Saying no.
saying no, or saying, I need help. You must decline work that falls outside your area of sufficient expertise. And seeking consultation, getting a peer review when you're facing something novel or particularly challenging, that's not weakness. That's a sign of professionalism and responsible practice.
Okay. Finally, let's just touch briefly on the legal consequences. This is where the rubber really meets the road if accountability fails. We've mentioned negligence, but maybe let's just outline the potential severity here.
Sure. There are sort of three main levels of consequences. At the, let's say the lowest level, you face professional discipline from your provincial or territorial association.
Okay, like fines or...
Yeah, it could range from mandated courses, fines, maybe practice restrictions,
Yeah.
all the way up to suspension or even revocation of your license to practice, losing your livelihood.
Serious stuff.
Very. Then there's civil liability. This is where professionals can be personally sued for negligence if their actions or inactions cause financial loss or physical harm to a client or maybe even a third party who relies on their work.
And that can mean huge financial penalties.
Potentially massive, which again just underscores why that robust documentation we talked about is so vital. It's your defense.
Right. And then the most severe cases, they can actually cross into criminal law.
They can. That brings us to criminal responsibility. In really severe cases, particularly involving gross negligence of very high standard, but possible that leads to death or serious bodily harm, criminal charges are absolutely on the table.
And there was a key change in the law related to this, wasn't there? After a major disaster.
Yes, the legislative changes following the 1992 West Ferry Mine disaster in Nova Scotia were critical, specifically Bill C-45, which amended the criminal code.
Why was that Bill C-45 so important? What did it change?
Well, before Bill C-45, actually holding corporations or the individuals directing them criminally responsible for workplace safety failures was extremely difficult legally.
Oh, okay.
The amendments clarified that organizations, companies, and the individuals within them who are responsible for directing work and ensuring safety, they can be held criminally liable for organizational negligence, especially for failures that show a wanton or reckless disregard for the lives or safety of others.
So it put real teeth into the duty to ensure safety.
Enormous teeth. It put significant legal weight behind that professional duty to ensure safe operations, protecting both workers and the public.
So really, if we try to tie all this together, whether we're talking about something as serious as Bill C-45 or just, a simple design report for a small project,
Yeah.
it all kind of comes back to that small symbol you put on the paper, right? The professional seal.
The seal really is the summation. It is your personal accountability made visible. It's a declaration. You're declaring, this work was done by me or under my direct supervision.
Okay.
It complies with all the relevant codes and standards. And most importantly, I accept full personal responsibility for its technical accuracy and its safety implications.
And misusing that seal, just stamping things without proper review.
That's treated as one of the most serious forms of professional misconduct. It fundamentally undermines the entire system of trust. If we connect all this back to the bigger picture, accountability really acts as that moral compass. It's what allows professionals to maintain their essential independence when they're facing all those competing pressures we talked about, the tight deadlines, the squeezed budgets, maybe difficult client demands.
It lets them stand firm on what's right.
Exactly. And cultivating this deep sense of responsibility, it's about leadership by example. It's about fostering open communication within teams. It's about creating a workplace culture where maybe junior staff feel safe, encouraged even, to raise concerns without any fear of reprisal.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, the listener, the learner?
Personal accountability, it really is the absolute cornerstone of professional life in these fields.
It's about acting diligently, always. It's about taking ownership, real ownership of your decisions and your work, recognizing your limits, and consistently, day in and day out, upholding that vital societal trust that's placed in the profession.
Well said.
Maybe a final thought. Accountability isn't really something just imposed on you from the outside. Ultimately, it's chosen from within.
That's a powerful way to frame it.
So we'd encourage you to consider this. What's maybe the single most important decision or perhaps action you can take this week, right now, to demonstrate that you have truly chosen to operate at the highest level of professional responsibility?
Something to reflect on.
Definitely. And if you found these insights valuable and you want more tailored deep dives like this to really help you master the material and, importantly, be successful on the NPPE exam, please make sure you subscribe to the deep dive today.
We hope you'll join us again.